Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer. And in this video, we're going to talk about Comet Nishimura. And we're going to talk about it in relation to the new moon in Virgo, which took place on September 15th, and to the upcoming full moon in Aries that is going to happen on September 29th. There is in fact a very interesting relationship between the comet and this preparation process that takes us towards September 29, which is Michaelmas, the day of the festival of the Archangel Michael. Now here you can see a beautiful and very famous painting by Liane Collot-d'Herbois featuring Michael piercing with a sword, which is a ray of light, the Arimatic dragon. And we also see him holding a scale in his hand, which is Libra, the sign where the sun is located at that moment. And he is holding light and darkness in balance. So let's start by talking about this comet. We had a series of comets in recent years. So we had in 2020, the Neowise comet, in 2021, the Leonard comet, and this year we discussed about the Neanderthal comet, so I made a video. It was in late February, if I'm not wrong, the end of January. And so this year is going to feature a couple of extra comets, and this is very interesting because not only we have Comet Nishimura, and of course we're going to talk about it in this video, but an additional comet was announced. So this comet is the Tsun-Chin-Shan Atlas comet, but we don't know whether it will become visible to the naked eye or not. It is not uncommon for comet to basically disintegrate as they approach to the solar sphere. So what are comets according to spiritual science? Let's start from here. So Rudolf Steiner tells us that comets are phenomena guided by the highest spiritual beings, the seraphim and the cherubim. And comets have the task of collecting and then expelling out of our solar system noxious astral substance. And this means that we can look at comets as a sort of cosmic street cleaners, so to speak. For this reason, when this intervention becomes necessary, it means that there's an excess and extra of these harmful astral substance. And for this reason, astrologers have always associated the appearance of comets with negative events. And this is because comets break into the cosmos, and cosmos is a word that means order. They break into this order and they alter it in some way. So here you can see a photo of Comet Nishimura, courtesy of Peter Kennett. And I'm going to use color as the first element to try to understand what this comet is about. So we have this greenish color, which is not unusual. And in fact, we can look back at Comet Leonard, even the Comet Neanderthal, they were greenish in color. And this is a very particular color, especially in this time of the year, because it may refer to the color of the Christ. Green is indeed the color of Christ, but it can also refer to the color of Ahriman, the color of the lower astral world. And since we're now under this Michaelmas atmosphere, and being Michael, the face of Christ on the one hand, who at the same time fights against the Arimatic forces, this color is very, very appropriate. Then we can try to draw information from the name of the comet itself, which might provide some insight. So the name Nishimura is a Japanese name, which is composed of two ideograms. So we have Nishi, western, and Mura, village. So I don't know Japanese. If any viewer knows more about it, please leave a comment down below. but the name here translates as Western Village. And this is a very interesting symbolic suggestion because that concerns a specific point of view, which is the point of view of the Far East of Japan. So the comet was discovered in Japan, right? So it is the Far East looking at the West, this Western village, the Western community, if you will. And it is looking at it in a detached way to see what's happening there, right? And for this reason, my take on this is that this comet has to do with us, with Western countries mainly. Now, of course, we can try to understand the meaning of the comet also by looking at its first appearance to humanity. So the comet was discovered on August 11 by Hideo Nishimura, a Japanese amateur astronomer. And this date is quite important because it is the date of the appearance of the Perseids. Now, the Perseids are these shooting stars, right? Bringing the cosmic iron down to the earth. And Steiner says that this cosmic iron is the iron of Michael's sword. So we can start seeing a connection with Michael here. And at the time of its discovery, the comet was in the starry image of Gemini, our twins, that you can see here. And this red mark is where the comet was. Now, in Astrosophy, this constellation, Gemini, corresponds to the awakening, the forces of awakening, of the forces of the I, the capital I, the ego, through the confrontation with our double. And the double is our shadow, the forces contained in the physical body, right? And this physical body, this shadow aspect of us, is represented by the mortal twin. So we have two twins. We have the immortal twin, the I, our spirit, our divine being, on the one hand, and on the other, we have our shadow, represented by the mortal twin. Now, today, this constellation overlaps with the tropical sign of Cancer, and this is something that is happening nowadays, because very, very slowly we know that constellations and tropical signs, they overlap differently. They are two wheels that shift very, very slowly. And this overlap today is an indication to the fact that the shadow we are called to confront has to do, in a personal sense, with Cancer forces. So forces of emotions, forces of family, and in a more collective sense, these forces are forces of nationalism. And in my opinion, the wars that are still ongoing has to do with this. So the noxious astral substance pertaining to these matters is then collected and expelled with the help of the spiritual world. And let me tell you that this help is very, very clear, because here we have an extraordinary alignment. In fact, at the time of its discovery, the comet was in conjunction, and we're talking about conjunction in terms of ecliptical longitude. It was in conjunction with the star Sirius. Now, Sirius is the famous star of ancient Egypt, the flaming star of the west, and it is the brightest star in the sky. It is connected to the goddess Isis, that is, with the archetype that in Anthroposophy we call Isis-Sophia, the divine wisdom. In fact, Nishimura was at 15 degrees Cancer, and today we can find Sirius at 14 degrees Cancer. Now, this star is of the nature of Mars and Jupiter. And this means that Jupiter is an element that brings wisdom. We have the divine wisdom, but also challenges to overcome. And this is due to the nature of Mars. Now, we will see that Mars is very involved here, precisely in the chart of the full moon in Aries, which take place right during Michaelmas. Now here you can see an image of Sirius in the constellation of Canis Major, the greater dog, and next to it the image of Isis-Sophia, and this is how the star was called back in ancient Egypt, Sophia. So we have a syncretism between the goddess Isis and the star that you can find here on the top of the head of Isis. Now we can understand that this conjunction between the comet and star Sirius is an indication that the comet is a form of help coming from the spiritual world, but in particular from these forces, the forces of the goddess Isis-Sophia. And in addition to that, we have the image of the watchdog here. In fact, Sothis, Sirius, Sophia, is a guardian star because of the nature of Jupiter that it holds. And Jupiter is a benefic planet, is a benefic force. But at the same time, it also means that we are going to face a period of very, very intense trials, of course, because of the nature of Mars. Now, let's try to understand this process in the light of the current lunation, because there is in fact a very close correlation between the comet and the last two syzygies. Now, this is the chart for the last new moon in Virgo on September 15 that we have discussed about in the last video, and it is very particular that the comet was in conjunction with the Sun and the moon precisely during the syzygy. So let me show you here. So here you can see, this is a snapshot of the sky during the syzygy. We have the sun and the moon aligned, of course, because it is a new moon. And right on top here, we have the comet. So sun and moon, we could find them at 22 Virgo, whereas Nishimura was at 23 Virgo, just 1 degree. Like this is a very, very close conjunction. Now, there is a very strong correlation between the comet and the new moon chart, of course, but we can find another important connection to the full moon chart as well. So here, as you can see, the comet is here. It is at 18 degrees Libra, just 3 degrees away from Mars. And in fact, this correlation is very important because the syzygy is a full moon in Aries, and Mars is the lord of the syzygy. It is the ruler of Aries. So we have, again, a very strong connection with the full moon as well. So let's take a look at the chart of the syzygy. So first of all, we can also talk a little bit about the last changes in the sky. Of course, we have Mercury here that has turned direct since we had seen it stationing in the chart of the new moon in Virgo. It is definitely a very strong, a brand new Mercury. We have in this chart the Sun, which entered Libra on September 23, the date of the autumn equinox. And the equinox is precisely this. It is all about the balance between light and darkness. And this is the reason why Michaelmas was placed as a festival in this time of the year. And entering in Libra, the Sun creates a very, very interesting relationship with Venus. It is a so-called mutual reception because the Sun enters the zodiac sign of Venus, so we say that the Sun is received by Venus in her sign. But being Venus in Leo, which is the zodiac sign of the Sun, well, that means that Venus is received in the zodiac sign of the Sun as well. So this is what a mutual reception is. The two planets receives each other in their respective domiciles. Now, some astrologers don't consider a mutual reception to take place if we don't have an aspect between them. And in this case, that would be a sextile aspect. But in my opinion, it is still taking place because it is an implied form of relationship that these two planets have. And together, what I really like about this mutual reception is that together they create a specific image, that of the Archangel Michael scale, because we have these Venusian forces of harmony that are marrying together with the solar forces, the golden forces of the sun. And this creates the image of the scales, right? So we can also find the image of Michael's sword by looking at this Mars in Libra that we have here, as we're going to see later on. But first of all, this is a full moon, right? And a full moon is the fulfillment of the manifestation of the etheric forces. It is a moment of peak of these forces, so we start diminishing them. And this is what makes a full moon a moment of retrospective, a moment to shed light into the night, into darkness. And this is very appropriate for a Michaelmas as well. It is also a moment of release, of purification. We move towards the new, and this means that we're getting ready for eclipse season here, because we're going to have a solar eclipse on October 14th and a lunar eclipse on October 28th. Now, this full moon is happening at 6 degrees here, at 6 degrees Aries, and it is taking place in the starry image of Pisces. Now, first of all, a full moon in Aries is happening in the zodiac sign of the warrior. So for this reason, the Sigils is ruled by Mars, the warrior planet, because Mars is the ruler of Aries. In this case, of course, our warrior is Michael, right? And in Astrosophy, when we look at this image of the Pisces in the sky, in Astrosophy, this constellation, Pisces, is connected to the Trinitarian principle of the Father and to the forces of sacrifice of the thrones. So Pisces, they have to do in Astrosophy with the karma of humanity, and in particular to the law of karma, because it is the fundamental spiritual law brought by the Father principle. So this law is so strong that no spiritual entity can escape it. So the Father principle put the law of karma as the law that is basically regulating all the universe, right? So for this reason, Pisces, connected to the Trinitarian principle of the Father, has also to do with the karma of humanity. And the question of karma is highlighted again here by Mars. And we can see that immediately because Mars, the Lord of the Sigils, being of course Aries ruled by Mars, Mars is in conjunction with the dragon stele, the south node. And this is a very powerful image. First of all, of course, the south node as well as the north node, they have both to do with karma and the release of karma, right? But on a more imaginative level, we really find a very powerful and beautiful image because on the positive, this Mars is the sword of Michael, which holds the dragon beneath it. The dragon's tail, the dragon is literally an image of this sword and the image of Archangel Michael holding the dragon beneath, right? So as you can see, they are both placed in the starry image of the Virgin, and we're going to see later on what it means. Because on the negative side, this Mars in Libra can bring very restrictive forces of justice, enforcing formality and rules, and the conjunction between Mars and the South Node can make Mars to bring about forces of destruction, I would say, in the name of justice. So we need to be careful because we don't want to destroy things in the name of justice. Michael doesn't kill the dragon. Michael puts the dragon in its place, but he doesn't kill him, right? So on top of that, this constellation, this image of the Virgin that we can see here, in Astrosophy requires the maximum forces of devotion and service for humanity to cope, in this case, with a karma that will now be released. And this is suggested, I remind you, by the presence of Comet Nishimura in conjunction with Mars. Comet Nishimura is here as well. So when will this karma be released? As already mentioned, it is going to be released by the eclipses. And in fact, we are approaching an intense October, eclipse season 2, with a solar eclipse in Libra happening on October 14th. And guess what? Right at 21 degrees of Libra. And Mars is at the moment at 21 degrees of Libra. This is a very fascinating alignment. And in addition to that, we're going to have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees Taurus on October 28th. So we need really to get ready for it. So summing up, an intense autumn is approaching, full of trials for humanity. We're going to deal with a release of karma that will occur during eclipse season 2 in October. And this is why it is becoming a priority to celebrate, or at least recognize, the festival of Michael. Why is that? Because this is the festival of courage. It is the festival of light piercing through the darkness and overcoming it. It is the festival of the strength, bringing balance between light and darkness, which also leads to the spiritualization of the human being, just as Easter brings the complementary impulse. Of course, at Easter, we have the embodiment of the divine. So we have Logos made flesh. On the contrary, we have during Michaelmas, the spiritualization of the human beings. So we have the flesh becoming Logos. Thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.